I was holding a stack of freshly printed, bright red wedding invitations, planning to surprise Ethan at the factory cafeteria. But when I reached the back kitchen door, I heard his friend Mike inside. "Ethan, are you really giving that hard-won marriage apartment to Kelly? Seriously? You're registering with Jenny next month. Where are you two going to live?" Ethan let out a careless laugh. "What's there to worry about? I've already cleared it with logistics. We'll stay in the dorms for now." She's honest and by the book. If the unit posts a notice, she'll follow it. And it's not like I'd shortchange her. I've already moved my bedding over and put her name down too. When the time comes, she can just move right in. Mike snorted. "You really think Jenny won't have any feelings about that? That's supposed to be your marriage apartment." Ethan's voice turned smug, tinged with pride. "What feelings could she have? Can't you see her heart's all in on me? This wool vest I'm wearing, she stayed up several nights knitting it for me. Said it's for our wedding. Who else would she be making it for besides me?" Another coworker chimed in. "Exactly. Ethan's right. Jenny's the stubborn type. Once she decides, she never changes. Things were so tough a couple years back, and she still saved her meat and cloth coupons for Ethan first, eating cornbread herself. Everybody on the shop floor knows it." Ethan basked in the flattery, clearly enjoying it. "You bachelors don't get it. This is called devotion. But honestly, she can be a bit of a drag sometimes. Too rigid. If I told her the apartment's for Kelly to live in, she'd definitely throw a fit. But Kelly just got divorced. She's raising a kid all on her own. How pitiful is that? If I don't help her, who will?" The room fell silent for a moment before Mike said with a chuckle, "Still, Kelly's got something about her. That new big perm, she sways when she walks. Not like Jenny, always in those blue work clothes. Just looking at her wears you out. And Kelly's sweet tongue too. Every other word it's brother Ethan this, brother Ethan that. Makes your bones go soft just hearing it. No wonder Ethan can't let her go." Laughter erupted from inside the kitchen. I stood outside the door, the invitations burning in my hands like fire. Pain surged in my chest, wave after wave. I turned silently, walked over to the trash can, and dropped the entire stack in. I didn't go home. I walked along the road outside the factory compound, the wind cutting my face like knives. Ethan's words kept replaying in my mind. I couldn't make sense of it. For that apartment, we'd worked overtime together to save money. We'd gone together to beg the unit leaders. Just yesterday, he'd held my hand and said he wanted to fill the windowsill with my favorite sunflowers. And now, in the blink of an eye, he'd given it all to someone else. He hadn't even bothered to tell me himself. He was sure I would just give in. So in his eyes, and in everyone else's, I'm someone with no temper. Someone easy to push around, a fool who can be taken for granted. It had always been Ethan who came after me. He was the one who asked people to set us up, who waited for me at the workshop door every day after my shift. But somehow, it ended up looking like I was the one who couldn't live without him. No one knows that even without Ethan, I would still work hard. I would still fight for a promotion, to earn the title of 8th level worker. That was the goal I set for myself on my very first day at the factory. A goal that had nothing to do with him, and one he could never shake. Thinking of that, I stopped walking and wiped the tears off my face. Forget it. If he wants to play the good guy, I can't stop him. But I didn't have to destroy myself because of him. When I got home, I locked the door and looked at the brand new butterfly sewing machine sitting in the room. That was part of my dowry. My tears finally broke free. Just then, the phone on the table rang. It was a call from Ethan's house. I hesitated for a long moment before finally picking up the receiver. On the other end came Ethan's cheerful voice. "Jenny, why haven't you come over yet? My mom made your favorite braised pork tonight. Everyone's waiting for you to start dinner." I gripped the receiver tightly, trying to make my voice sound normal. "I'm a little tired today. I'm not coming." As soon as I finished speaking, another woman's voice suddenly cut in. It was Kelly. "Jenny, it's me. I'm here learning to cook from Auntie. You have to come taste my cooking." Ethan immediately spoke to her in a gentle tone. "Don't worry about that, Kelly. Go ahead and serve the soup." After soothing Kelly, his tone turned cold when he spoke to me again. "Jenny, what are you sulking about now? My mom went out of her way to make dinner for you. Don't be so immature." Then he hung up. The busy tone buzzed in my ear, sending a chill straight through my chest. I slowly put down the receiver, found the embroidered pillowcases I had stayed up late to finish, the ones with the dragons and phoenixes symbolizing a happy marriage, and took them to the courtyard. I lit a match and watched the flames swallow the red silk threads. Then I turned, walked out, and headed straight for the post office. There, I sent a telegram to his work unit. Wedding cancelled. Wishing you well. I didn't bother with anything after that. I went home and unplugged the telephone cord. Soon, different coworkers started knocking on my door, all delivering messages on Ethan's behalf. What's with the telegram? Can't you talk it out in person? Plug the phone back in already. I pretended not to hear a thing. By the next evening, just as I stepped out of the factory gate, Ethan appeared, this time with Kelly right beside him. She was dressed in a fashionable dress, her permed hair bouncing in curls, standing pressed close against him. Ethan's face was dark with anger when he saw me. Jenny, you really outdid yourself this time. Sending a telegram? You trying to make the whole factory laugh at me? Why can't you talk things out in private? Did you really have to make such a scene? What, you can't even tolerate a divorced woman? How can you be so small-minded? His accusations came one after another, and all the anger I'd forced down yesterday flared right back up. I stared at him and let out a cold laugh. Yeah, I'm small-minded. I can't tolerate it. Happy now? You're so generous, so full of compassion, then go be with her. Just stop bothering me. I stepped aside to leave, but Kelly suddenly let out a soft cry and moved in front of me. Jenny, please don't be mad. Ethan didn't mean it like that. He's taken care of me since we were kids. We're just like brother and sister. You're the one he really cares about. She said it with a smile that could only belong to someone who thought she'd already won. I shook off her hand. I don't want to hear it. I was just about to walk away when Kelly suddenly staggered, leaning dramatically into Ethan's arms. Jenny, she said, her voice trembling, I know you hate me, but you didn't have to push me. Ethan immediately caught her, his expression panicked. Kelly, are you okay? Kelly shook her head, but her eyes were rimmed red. Ethan looked up at me, disappointment written all over his face. Jenny, when did you become like this? How many times have I told you, I only see Kelly as a sister? Ethan and I had grown up together. If I'd ever wanted to be with him, do you think I would have waited until now? He gave me a cold look. If you insist on being unreasonable, then let's talk when you calm down. He wrapped an arm around Kelly and turned to leave. After taking a few steps, he looked back at me and said, Oh right, housing will be assigning dorm rooms tomorrow. Don't forget to sign the papers and pick up your key. If you miss it, no one's gonna find you a place to stay. Just then, Kelly tugged at his sleeve and whispered, Ethan, the light bulb in my house burned out. It's so dark, I'm scared. Ethan immediately turned toward her. Don't be afraid, I'll come fix it after work. I watched them walk away, side by side. From my bag, I pulled out the polyester scarf he'd given me and tossed it onto the ground. Ethan, I won't be picking up that key. I'll find my own place. For the next few days, I didn't speak to him again. Not until the weekend, when the workshop director hosted a wedding banquet for his daughter and invited everyone from the department. I thought about how we'd still have to see each other at work sooner or later, so I decided to go. The moment I stepped into the private room at the state-run restaurant, I heard a familiar voice. Ethan, did you make things clear with Jenny? What if she really thinks the wedding's off and doesn't go to sign for the dorm key, then what? Ethan chuckled, unconcerned. Don't worry, I made sure to mention the dorm before I left that day. She heard me. She's just giving me the cold shoulder to save face. I know her. She might act stubborn in public, but I bet she's already moved her stuff in. One of his friends looked doubtful. Ethan slapped him on the shoulder and grinned. All right, stop worrying about other people's business. Then he turned and saw me. I walked into the room. Most people were already seated. Ethan smiled and reached out to take my hand, but I stepped back, leaving him grasping at air. His smile froze for a second before he lowered his voice. Still mad? It's been days. That's enough, isn't it? Stop making a scene, okay? I stared at him in silence. Ethan forced another smile. Come on, don't act like a kid. This is a happy occasion, our boss's daughter's wedding. You got the dorm key, right? Looking at him, all I felt was disgust. I turned away, ready to find a quiet corner to sit, when Kelly walked in wearing a bright red dress. "Ethan, I'm here," she called cheerfully as she slipped her arm through his, pressing herself close. "I'm not late, am I?" No, you're right on time. Go find a seat," Ethan said quickly. He looked like he wanted to say something more to me, but I ignored him and walked straight to the farthest table. His face darkened immediately. As the drinks flowed and the room grew livelier, someone at another table started teasing. One coworker lifted his glass toward Kelly. "Come on, Kelly, have a drink." Ethan quickly took the glass from the man's hand. "She's allergic to alcohol. I'll drink it for her." That only fueled the laughter and shouting. "Drinking for her doesn't count. You have to drink arm in arm." Everyone in the room knew Ethan and I were supposed to be getting married soon. They also knew I had always gone along with whatever he wanted. To them, Ethan was my whole world. So in a moment like this, no one even thought to consider how I might feel. Amid the cheers and teasing, Ethan picked up his glass, looping his arm around Kelly's. Kelly's face flushed red with excitement, and she practically melted into him. "Thank you, Ethan," she said loudly, her voice sweet and coy. "You're nothing like my useless ex-husband. He only knew how to hit me. You're the only one who's ever treated me right." The room erupted in laughter and catcalls. Ethan's eyes sparkled with amusement as he looked up and met mine. He looked at me as if waiting for me to explode. Instead, I simply picked up my glass, lifted it slightly in his direction, and downed it in one gulp. The smile on Ethan's face vanished instantly. He pulled Kelly into his arms and finished his own drink. Even though I had already decided to let go, and had told myself over and over not to care, seeing that scene still felt like a needle piercing straight into my heart. I set my glass down, muttered something about not being able to handle alcohol, and stood up to leave. I was truly exhausted. I didn't want to watch their performance any longer. As soon as I stepped out of the restaurant, Ethan came chasing after me. "Jenny," he called, his tone sharp. "What was that supposed to mean? You just had to embarrass me in front of everyone?" I looked at him, forcing down all the emotions boiling inside me. "Ethan, what exactly do you want?" He froze, looking momentarily confused. "What do I want? I told you already. It was just a wedding party. Everyone was joking around. Why do you have to take everything so seriously?" Suddenly, the whole thing just felt pointless. "You already gave the apartment to Kelly. What about our wedding? Are you planning to explain that to me at all?" His expression faltered. "Jenny, we all work at the same place. We see each other every day. What's wrong with staying in the dorms for now? It's not that bad. We'll figure out the apartment later." I stared at him for a long moment before speaking slowly, for the last time. "What I want is a real home, Ethan, not some unclear, borrowed dorm bed." I turned away before he could answer. "Good night." When I got home, my parents were still up, sitting at the table waiting for me. As soon as I walked in, my mom looked up with concern. "Jenny, did you and Ethan finalize everything? We're supposed to hand out the wedding candies next week. Have you two set the date yet?" I gave her a small smile. "Mom, there's not going to be a wedding." After showering, I stared at the neatly written wedding announcement sitting on my desk and tore it to shreds. It was past midnight when someone started pounding on the door. My mom went to open it. Standing outside was Ethan, reeking of alcohol, with one of his friends beside him. "It was my fault," he blurted. "I shouldn't have embarrassed you in front of everyone. I'll be honest, Kelly's moving out right now. Just give me another chance, okay?" I stood at the doorway, saying nothing, staring at him with cold detachment. His friend jumped in to help. "Come on, Jenny. Look, Ethan came here himself to apologize. You women should learn to be understanding." Behind me, my mom tugged gently at my sleeve. "Jenny," she whispered, "maybe let him come in and talk." I turned to my mom and said calmly, "He can come in after he brings me the keys to that apartment." Ethan's face went stiff. He stammered, The keys, they're still with Kelly, but she's moving out tomorrow. I'll bring them to you first thing in the morning, I promise." I let out a short, bitter laugh. "Ethan, do you take me for a child?" He grew anxious. "Jenny, don't be like this, I shut the door in his face before he could finish. "Jenny, open the door," Ethan shouted, pounding on it. "Let's talk." I leaned against the door, listening to the commotion outside. His friend started grumbling. Man, this woman doesn't know how good she's got it. Ethan's already lowered himself to come here and she still won't give him the time of day. Exactly, another voice joined in. There are so many people lining up for an 8th-level worker. Who does she think she is? Listening to them, I couldn't help but laugh quietly to myself. They still thought I couldn't live without Ethan, that I'd be grateful just because he showed up and said sorry. Behind me, my mom sighed softly. Jenny, you two can't keep going on like this forever. There's nothing left to talk about, Mom. My voice was steady. If he were truly sincere, he would have brought me the keys to that apartment long ago. Outside, the noise grew louder. Ethan was still pounding on the door, and his friends were shouting along with him. Then, from the end of the alley, came the sound of an engine. It was rare to hear that kind of noise around our factory neighborhood. Most people rode bicycles or walked. Hardly anyone owned a car. I peered through the narrow gap of the window. A black Volga sedan was slowly driving toward our house before coming to a stop right in front of our door. Ethan and his friends froze, their mouths hanging open in shock. The car door opened, and a tall man in a perfectly pressed gray suit stepped out. His posture was upright, his expression calm and composed. There was something about him, an air of refinement and intellect, that no one in our factory had ever had. He walked straight to our front door and knocked politely. "Excuse me, is Miss Jenny home?" My heart suddenly started pounding. I opened the door and there he was, a face I hadn't seen in 10 years but could still recognize instantly. "Michael," I whispered his name. He gave me a small nod, his gaze passing over me before settling coldly on Ethan, who stood there dumbstruck. Ethan finally found his voice, stammering, Who are you?" Michael ignored him completely. His eyes met mine. "Jenny, I came to take you home." In that moment, all the anger and humiliation that had been building inside me for days seemed to melt away. 10 years ago, we had promised that he would go out into the world first, and once he found his footing, he would come back for me. And now, here he was. Ethan and his friends were still frozen, staring wide-eyed as Michael stepped fully into view. His presence was commanding, calm, and unmistakably self-assured, something I had never once seen in any of my coworkers. He walked right up to the doorway again and asked once more, his tone polite but steady, "Is Miss Jenny here?" My heart raced as I opened the door wider. Seeing his familiar face after all those years, so different yet so much the same, left me breathless. My parents came out from the living room. They looked from Michael, standing tall and composed, to Ethan, still swaying drunkenly in the doorway, and their expressions turned complicated. My mother whispered, "Jenny, who is this?" "Mom," I said softly, "this is my friend, Michael." Michael gave my parents a polite nod. "Good evening, sir, ma'am. My name is Michael Lin. I'm here at the factory for a technical collaboration, and I thought I'd take the chance to visit an old friend." Only then did Ethan snap out of his daze. "You. Who the hell are you?" he demanded, his words slurred with drink. Michael calmly reached into his briefcase and handed me an envelope. "This is for you." The letterhead bore the insignia of a top research institute in Washington, D.C. Ethan saw the emblem and immediately sobered up. He rushed forward, shouting, "Jenny, who is this man? What's your relationship with him?" Michael stepped between us, his tone even but firm, radiating quiet authority. "Watch your words, sir. Jenny is my fiancée. Who are you exactly?" Ethan's eyes went red with fury. "Fiancée?" he roared. Michael turned his head toward me, his expression softening. "Jenny, is that true?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I opened the envelope right there in front of Ethan. Inside was an official letter, a formal invitation for advanced study. "Michael," I said quietly, "this is what we promised each other 10 years ago, isn't it?" He nodded. "I told you, once I found my footing, I'd come back for you, to take you away from the factory and help you continue your studies." Ethan froze completely. He couldn't comprehend what he was hearing. In his eyes, I had always been a simple, ordinary factory worker, and now I had a chance to go to Washington, D.C.? He muttered under his breath. "No way. You? What could you possibly do?" My parents' expressions grew more and more complicated as they listened. My mother looked at me in surprise. "Jenny, you never told us about any of this." I looked at my father and said softly, "Dad, Michael and I went to high school together. We made a promise back then. We both planned to go to college. Later, he went to Washington first, but he said that when the time was right, he'd come back for me. Michael added calmly, Jenny's always had excellent grades. She has the ability to achieve much more than what she's been given here. Ethan's friends exchanged awkward glances. The same people who had defended him earlier were now at a loss for words. Ethan grew desperate. You've all been fooled. He's just an ordinary engineer. What power does he have to take her to Washington? Mr. Ethan, Michael said coldly, his tone sharp but steady, it seems you never understood Jenny as well as you thought you did. I looked down at the invitation in my hand, feeling something inside me reignite, something I'd buried for far too long. Michael, our promise still stands. I'll go with you. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the resignation form I'd already prepared, and handed it to Ethan. Sign this. Once you do, we're even. Ethan's hands were trembling as he took the paper. Jenny, you can't do this. We're supposed to get married. Married? Michael gave a short, humorless laugh. You mean the apartment you gave to another woman? Ethan's face went pale. He hadn't expected Michael to know about that. My mother glanced between the two men, then finally asked, almost to herself, Jenny, is this Mr. Lynn a better match for you than Ethan? Michael's tone softened. Ma'am, Jenny is my friend. Whatever she decides, I'll respect her choice. Friend? Ethan snapped, raising his voice. Driving here in the middle of the night, bringing her a letter like that, you expect us to believe you're just friends? You two must have... Enough. My father's voice cut through his shouting. Ethan, take a good look at yourself. Look at the kind of man you've become. Ethan fell silent, stunned by the weight of my father's words. I placed the resignation statement in front of him. Sign it. From now on, there's nothing between us. Michael glanced at his watch. Jenny, it's getting late. We have to stop by the factory tomorrow to handle some paperwork. All right, I said softly, then turned to Ethan. You can take your time to think it over before signing. But my decision won't change. Without waiting for a reply, I closed the door, leaving Ethan standing there in disbelief. Through the window, I could see Michael return to his car. But he didn't leave. He stayed parked outside, quietly waiting. I knew he was waiting for my final decision. After 10 long years, the man I'd waited for had finally come back. The next morning, as soon as I entered the factory gates, I sensed that something was off. The usually bustling walkway was unusually quiet. Small groups of coworkers were gathered, whispering among themselves. When they saw me, their eyes darted away quickly. I heard a man with a car showed up at Jenny's place last night. Yeah, I heard he's an engineer from Washington, handsome too. Didn't she just break up with Ethan? Looks like she didn't waste any time finding someone new. Who knew Jenny had that kind of cunning in her? I pretended not to hear and kept walking toward the workshop. But the farther I went, the louder the gossip grew, until even pretending to ignore it was impossible. Just as I reached the workshop door, Ethan came charging out and blocked my path. His eyes were bloodshot, and he looked like he hadn't slept all night. There was something dangerous in the way he moved, a storm barely contained beneath his skin. Jenny, stop, right there. Ethan barked. All around us, coworkers paused what they were doing, craning their necks to watch the scene unfold. Ethan, move, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Move, he sneered. You've already done what you did and now you're afraid of people talking? What's that supposed to mean? I frowned. Don't pretend, Jenny. His voice grew louder and sharper. Who the hell is that Michael guy? When did you two start hooking up? He's a friend, I said firmly. Friend? Ethan scoffed through gritted teeth. Would a friend drive all the way here in the middle of the night just to pick you up? Would a friend hand you an invitation letter from Washington? You really fooled us all, didn't you? Acting all pure and dignified on the surface, but secretly lining up your next man. The people around us began to whisper and point. Unbelievable, she's got some nerve. Ethan treated her so well and she turns around and does this to him. Such a manipulative woman. Flirting with a man from out of town just because he's got a car and a fancy job. She doesn't want a solid worker with a house, she's chasing something better. Hearing their words made my blood boil. Ethan, get your facts straight, I said coldly. You're the one who gave our apartment to another woman. You're the one who broke our promise first. That's different, he shouted, his face flushing red. Kelly's like a little sister to me. What's wrong with helping her? But you, what's going on between you and that guy? Don't tell me you've known him all along. You have no right to question me. My voice dropped low, but every word was sharp. You and I are no longer together. No longer together. Ethan suddenly let out a bitter, wild laugh. Jenny, don't forget, everyone here knows we were supposed to get married, and now you're cozying up to another man. How do you expect me to hold my head up around here? Hold your head up? I snapped, unable to hold back anymore. Did you think about my dignity when you handed our marriage apartment to another woman? That's not the same thing, he stammered. What's different about it? I demanded. He couldn't answer. His face turned ashen, and all he could do was shout in frustration, "You're a traitor. You're just a gold digger." The factory filled with murmurs again, louder this time. Wow, Jenny always looked so honest and quiet. Never thought she was like this. Yeah, Ethan's got a stable job, a house, and good prospects, and she still ran off with some big city guy. Guess we're just too ordinary for her now. I stood there, surrounded by their accusing voices and judgmental stares, feeling an icy wave of despair rise inside me. Then, from outside the workshop, came the sound of approaching footsteps. "Mr. Lin, what brings you to the workshop today?" came the factory director's voice, overly polite, almost nervous. I turned around. The director and our workshop manager were walking in, followed by several others. Among them was Michael. The moment the director saw him, his face lit up with a broad, deferential smile. "Mr. Lin, are you here to inspect our workshop's progress?" "I'm here to speak with Miss Jenny," Michael said evenly. "There are a few technical matters I'd like to discuss with her." The director blinked in surprise. "Jenny? Oh right, she's one of the key contributors to our current technical innovation project." The entire workshop fell silent. Just moments ago, the same people who had been mocking me now stood frozen, staring. The director's respectful tone toward Michael left them completely stunned. "Mr. Lin," the workshop manager asked cautiously, "did you mean our Jenny here in this workshop?" "Of course," Michael replied with a calm nod. "Her technical ability is excellent. She's been an important part of our research and development plan." He offered several insightful technical suggestions, each one sharp and practical. Ethan stood off to the side, his face shifting from red to pale until he looked completely lost. Just moments ago, he had been mocking me for climbing up the social ladder. But now he saw with his own eyes that the title of 8th-level worker, which he had always been so proud of, meant nothing compared to Michael's standing. "Mr. Lin, please, carry on," the factory director said respectfully. Then his eyes fell on Ethan, who was still lingering near me, and his expression hardened. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" I. Ethan stammered at a loss for words. "Don't disrupt Mr. Lin's work," the director barked sharply. "Get back to your station now." Ethan's face turned crimson. Every insult, every accusation he had thrown at me just minutes ago, now looked like a complete joke. I looked at him, embarrassed, humiliated, deflated, and felt the last of my anger fade away. "Mr. Ethan," I said calmly, "you and I have nothing to do with each other anymore. Please stop harassing me." Then I turned and walked out beside Michael and the factory director, leaving Ethan standing there, ghost white and speechless. Behind us, I could hear the low murmur of my coworkers' voices, but this time, the tone was very different. "Who knew Jenny was that capable? She even knows an engineer from Washington. Yeah, she's got real skill, not like some people who just talk big." Ethan really made a fool of himself this time. I didn't look back. I just kept walking. After that day, everyone in the factory knew Michael was a special guest, someone the factory had invited from Washington for technical collaboration. Even the factory director treated him with the utmost respect. From then on, Ethan thought twice before even trying to cause me trouble. He didn't dare. But someone else did. When Kelly saw Ethan's situation crumble, his reputation ruined, and the apartment slipping through his fingers, she grew frantic, like an ant on a hot stove. Before long, new rumors began to spread through the factory. People whispered that I had been secretly involved with the engineer from Washington for a long time, that I had deliberately set Ethan up and humiliated him so I could dump him openly and move on without guilt. They said I was heartless, jealous of a poor divorced woman with a child, and that I was trying to ruin Kelly's life out of spite. The gossip spread quickly, more and more elaborate with each retelling, until everyone seemed to have their own version of the story. One evening, just as I got home from work, Ethan's mother was waiting for me at my front door. She was nothing like the kind, smiling woman who used to urge us to get married. Hands on her hips, she pointed a trembling finger at my face and yelled, "Jenny, you ungrateful girl. What did my Ethan ever do to you? You just break up whenever you feel like it? You bring in some outsider to humiliate him? Is that what you wanted? To drive him to his grave?" My mother came out from the kitchen, trying to smooth things over. "Please, let's calm down and talk this through." "Talk?" Ethan's mother's voice rose even louder. "Look at the daughter you raised. She finds someone from the big city and forgets her roots. My son lost all his dignity because of her, and now she's parading around the factory with that engineer like she's already married to him. What do you think we are, dead?" I didn't bother to argue. I just looked at her coldly. "Your son made a fool of himself when he gave our apartment away. That has nothing to do with me." Her face flushed purple with rage, and for a moment she couldn't even speak. Finally she spat out, "You'll regret this. Ethan's not gonna let you get away with it." She stormed off, and just minutes later, Kelly appeared. She didn't even come inside. The moment she reached the courtyard, she dropped to her knees with a loud thud and began to cry, tears streaming down her face. "Jenny, please, I'm begging you. Please, just let us go. It's not easy for a woman like me raising a child alone. If you really hate me that much, I'll move out. Just, please, stop making things hard for Ethan." Her sudden crying drew the attention of everyone in the neighborhood. Within moments, people began gathering at the gate, whispering and pointing at my house. My mother, too kind for her own good, instinctively started forward to help her up. I grabbed my mother's hand to stop her. I'd finally seen it clearly. These people weren't here to reason. They wanted to drown me with their words, bury me under their spit and gossip. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could say a word, a thin, dark-faced man came charging down the alley. He covered the distance in just a few long strides, grabbed Kelly by the hair, and yanked her to her feet with shocking force. "Kelly, do you have no shame at all?" he roared. His eyes were bloodshot, his whole body trembling with fury. Kelly screamed, terrified, her face turning ghostly pale the instant she saw who it was. You. Why are you here? Why am I here?" The man's voice cracked with rage. "If I hadn't come, I wouldn't just be wearing a green hat. I'd have a whole damn forest growing on my head." He shook her hard, shouting, "You thought I was dead, didn't you? Pretending to be some poor, abandoned widow to get everyone's pity." The neighbors who had gathered looked stunned. That man? Wasn't he the same ex-husband Kelly always described as violent, the one she claimed had nearly killed her? "You're lying," Kelly shrieked, struggling to break free. "Lying?" The man let out a harsh, humorless laugh and pulled a wad of crumpled letters from his pocket. He threw them right in her face. "Read for yourself. These are the love letters you sent to that bastard from the purchasing department. Said I was useless. Said you'd run off with him once you stole all the money we'd saved for your treatment. You ran away, took every last penny, and now you've got the nerve to stand here crying like some tragic victim." The alley fell silent for a moment, and then the man's words exploded through the crowd like a thunderclap. People gasped, murmuring in disbelief. Just then, Ethan came rushing toward us, out of breath and frantic. He must have heard that Kelly was making a scene at my house and had come to protect his precious little sister. "What do you think you're doing? Let her go," he shouted, lunging toward the man. The man shoved him back so hard he nearly fell. "You must be the idiot she's been fooling," he barked, pointing straight at Ethan's face. "Listen to me, this woman hasn't spoken a single true word in her life. She abandoned her own son without a second thought, and you treat her like she's some kind of treasure?" Ethan froze, staring at the letters scattered across the ground, then at Kelly, her face ashen, her lips trembling. The color drained completely from his face. The poor, helpless sister he'd risked everything to defend had been nothing but a liar from beginning to end. Kelly's mask shattered completely. Her ex-husband grabbed her by the arm, dragging her away as she screamed and thrashed, her humiliation on full display under the judging eyes of everyone watching. When they disappeared down the alley, only Ethan remained, standing motionless in the middle of the street. He looked like an empty shell, drained of every ounce of pride and strength, a pitiful figure left behind for everyone to pity and mock. Kelly's farce became the final blow that crushed Ethan completely. By the next morning, the air in the factory felt different, heavier, staler. The machines roared as usual, but even their clattering couldn't drown out the hushed gossip spreading through every corner of the workshop. "Did you hear? Ethan gave up his marriage apartment for that con artist. That's not even the worst part. Jenny's doing just fine now. She's working with that engineer from Washington. Ethan? He's got nothing. Serves him right. He had everything going for him and threw it away trying to be a hero. Now look at him, played for a fool." Ethan looked hollow, his complexion gray, all the swagger and confidence from before completely gone. He finally realized that the only way to salvage his pride was to kick Kelly out of the apartment he'd given her. That evening, he stormed into the old tenement building, kicked the door open, and bellowed, "Kelly, get the hell out of my place." But Kelly wasn't the same timid woman she used to be. Her pretense was gone, her mask shattered. She sat on the floor, wailing and pounding the ground with her fists. "Ethan, you bastard," she screamed. "You were the one who begged me to move in," Kelly screamed, her voice hoarse and shrill. "And now you want me gone? I'm a woman with a child. Where am I supposed to go?" The two of them fought in the stairwell, shouting and cursing. Pots and pans crashed to the floor, echoing through the narrow corridor. Neighbors poked their heads out from behind doors, whispering, pointing, shaking their heads at the chaos. It didn't take long for the news to reach the factory leaders. By the third day, a new notice appeared on the factory bulletin board, stamped with a bright red seal. Notice regarding the revocation of employee Ethan Miller's housing assignment. In view of Comrade Ethan Miller's unauthorized decision to lend his assigned marital housing to others, resulting in extremely negative repercussions, it has been decided, upon review, that the said housing will be immediately repossessed and reassigned. The words were written in black and white, clear and final. When Ethan saw the notice, he froze. Then, like a man possessed, he ran straight to the head of the logistics department, practically falling to his knees as he begged. "Please, sir, I made a mistake. Please give me one more chance." The department head didn't even glance up. Calmly, he blew on his cup of tea and said slowly, "Ethan, didn't you already apply for a dormitory bed? You can stay there for now." He paused, then repeated the very same words Ethan had once said to me. "The apartment issue can always be dealt with later." Ethan broke completely. He had lost me, lost his reputation, and now he had lost the apartment he valued above everything else. The factory moved quickly. That very afternoon, a team was sent to evict Kelly by force. Her belongings were thrown out piece by piece onto the street below. Holding her child in her arms, she slunk away under the scornful stares of the neighbors, her face gray with humiliation. After that day, Ethan began to lose his mind trying to find me. He waited for me outside the factory gates, lurked beneath my apartment building, always looking worse each time I saw him, thin, unshaven, with red, sleepless eyes. "Jenny," he rasped one evening, grabbing my arm, his voice cracked and trembling. "I was wrong. I'm a fool. I was a bastard. Please forgive me. Give me another chance. We can start over." I looked at him, at the wreck he had become, and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no pity, just a quiet, hollow kind of disgust. I pulled my arm free and met his eyes. "Ethan," I said slowly, enunciating each word, "you're not sorry for what you did to me. You're sorry you lost the apartment, that your name is ruined, that all your scheming got you nothing in the end." He froze, speechless, his mouth half open but no sound coming out. I smiled faintly, though it never reached my eyes. "You only remember me now because you've got nothing left, because I'm the one person you think will still take you back and make things right again. Isn't that it?" The color drained from his face until he looked like chalk. 6 months later, all my paperwork for the transfer was complete. I was preparing to leave for Washington with Michael. Through my own hard work and my role in the factory's technical innovation project, I had earned the title of 8th-level worker, the very goal I had set for myself years ago. As Michael and I packed, he clumsily folded my clothes while I organized documents. We shared a quiet smile, saying nothing but understanding everything. Our relationship had long since grown beyond the promise we'd made 10 years ago. It had become something deeper, steadier. Before leaving town, I stopped by the post office to send my parents some money and a long letter. As I stepped out onto the street, I saw Ethan one last time. He had been reassigned to the foundry, the hardest, dirtiest job in the entire factory. His face was dark and gaunt, his clothes caked with grease and dust, his eyes dull and lifeless. He stepped in front of me, blocking my way. His voice was hoarse when he spoke. "Are you really leaving?" I nodded. "Yes, I'm going to Washington." His eyes turned red and his voice trembled with desperation. "Jenny, please, I was wrong, I was an idiot, don't go, we can start over. I'll do whatever you say. I'll beg the factory leaders again, I'll get the apartment back, I swear." I cut him off, my tone calm and steady. "That's not necessary, Ethan." I took a slow breath, then said softly, "Michael's home in Washington has a big balcony. He's already filled it with sunflowers. He said he planted them because I like them." I turned and walked toward the end of the alley. Michael was leaning casually against the car, sunlight catching his face, his smile warm and certain. I never looked back. The end.